Most of the earliest portrayals of Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar on screen occurred during periods of sharp tension between Hindus and Muslims. In the years soon after the partition between India and Pakistan in 1947, and two separate wars between the countries, one in 1947 itself and another in 1965, Akbar was portrayed somewhat negatively on screen, an enemy of his son's love. His Hindu wife Jodhaa often appeared in these portrayals, but she was largely silent, and her relationship with Akbar was never the focus. Almost 50 years after the blockbuster Mughal-e-Azam was released, director Ashutosh Gowariker was working on his next project, a film about Jodhaa and Akbar's love story. He had already made a name for himself in the historical fiction genre with Lagan in 2001, and had recently wrapped Swades in 2004, the latter of which explored current systemic, socio-economic issues afflicting the subcontinent. Gowariker's portrayal of Akbar in his 2008 film is markedly more positive than in previous films. Further, his choice to focus on Akbar's love for his Hindu wife presented an opportunity to exhibit a hopeful vision of religious harmony and an intercultural romance heightened by majestic wealth. In my opinion, the film squarely taps into Gowariker's strengths. It depicts historical fiction on a massive scale and conveys social messages relevant to modern India. In its preamble, the film doesn't shy away from the fact that history books exhibit conflicting information on Akbar's Hindu wife, including what her name was. Further, literature points out that his Hindu wife might have converted to Islam at some point, and that Akbar had many wives. The film presents a much more wholesome version of these events. Jodhaa retains her religious identity, and Akbar has no detectable inclination to marry again. By the end, it seems like they're poised to have a happy, monogamous life together. But with that being said, I think Gowariker's attempts to tell a different version of events than those of history books serve a noble purpose. His fundamental message is clear. In this video, let's discuss some of the unique attributes of Jodhaa and Akbar's love story in the 2008 film and some underlying messages that I believe the film conveys visually and thematically. To start off, I want to reiterate how impressive I find this film, including its scale, coordination of extras during battle and dance sequences, use of animals, lavish costumes and jewelry, poetic music and lyrics, and the most important things to me, writing and acting. To succeed on all these fronts simultaneously is a feat, to say the least. Furthermore, the film is 3.5 hours in duration, which is long even by Indian standards. But I didn't notice. I never felt like the film dragged, which I think speaks to Ashutosh Gowariker's skill as a filmmaker and that of his team. So that's really cool. Also, I think Hrithik Roshan and Aishwarya Rai are two of the most beautiful people in our industry, and to see them as married monarchs of India is so lovely. True to its title, Jodhaa and Akbar's love story is the heart of the film. I think their two-person scenes are the most compelling. But because the film covers so much ground, there's only so much time it can allocate to their love story. By my count, there are 4 subplots. Sujamal's attempts to win Amer, Sharifuddin's attempts to win Delhi, Adam Khan's attempts to hide his embezzlement, and Mahamanga's attempts to retain control over Akbar. Granted, these subplots all create pressure that helps Jodhaa and Akbar's relationship evolve and strengthen, but they still take up space that might have otherwise gone toward the direct love story. Now that's partly why I think Ekta Kapoor felt compelled to create a show about Jodhaa and Akbar in 2013. I mean, her team probably formed the idea because they saw that the 2008 film performed well commercially and they wanted to capitalize on that. But I also think the show creators perceived that this interfaith, intercultural love story had a lot more layers than the film had time to explore, which I think is true. I'm currently at the beginning of the show and I think it's great so far. I'll keep you posted as to whether I think there's potential for a video essay there. But let me know if you've seen it and if you'd be interested in a video about it. But for now, let's get back to the film. The film juxtaposes visual elements and motifs to demonstrate the growing closeness between Jodhaa and Akbar and convey its fundamental message about the need for religious harmony. I think natural elements like the sun, moon, fire, and flowers are meant to represent the divine, either God or paradise. These elements are present during seminal moments in Jodhaa and Akbar's relationship, such as their wedding, post-wedding ceremonies, courtship, and union, as well as moments when they're directly praying. I think this is meant to represent two things. One is God's omnipresence and nature as love itself, and two, the reality that Jodhaa and Akbar's gods are the same god. First, the Quran describes paradise, or heaven, using the Arabic word Jannah, which according to my research also translates to garden. Correspondingly, Islamic writings describe paradise as filled with flowers and fruits beyond human articulation. The Srimad Bhagavatam also describes heaven this way, so I think the lyrical references to flowers during the song Jashne Bahara is meant to allude to heaven and communicate the sweet, unspeakable feelings between Jodhaa and Akbar at this point in their relationship. Second, I think Jodhaa and Akbar both associate God with white or golden light. For example, after Akbar witnesses Jodhaa praying to Lord Krishna, he feels overwhelmed, not only by her beauty, but her devotion. He can relate to it, as exemplified by these white curtains waving in the breeze, which are reminiscent of the white robes of the whirling dervishes, and the white cosmic light during the song Khwaja Mere Khwaja. After Jodhaa prays all night for Akbar to recover from his injury, sunlight streams behind her idol, and Akbar is well. Akbar's mother says,
"लाख लाख शुक्र है कि खुदा ने आपको नई जिंदगी बख्शी."
Which might be a little tongue-in-cheek because we just saw Jodhaa praying to Lord Krishna all night, but in all seriousness, she's absolutely right. God saved him. Whatever these individual characters call God is up to them. It makes no difference, it's the same God. Moving on, before Akbar professes his love for Jodhaa, he waits for the sunlight to enter their chamber at the right angle, which is something he would have experienced before. And when the sunlight enters, it makes the room look like an oasis of gold. Hindu and Islamic scriptures describe heaven as replete with gold. Canto 3, Chapter 15 of the Srimad Bhagavatam states, "The inhabitants of Vaikunt travel in their airplanes, made of lapis lazuli, emerald and gold, eternally singing of the character and activities of the Lord. While doing so, the inhabitants deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey." When asked, "What is paradise built from?" the Prophet Muhammad responded, "Bricks of silver and gold. Its mortar is musk of strong fragrance. Its pebbles are pearls and rubies, and its soil is saffron." This climactic scene ties in with what Akbar says at the end of the film.
ये बात भी आप सब पर रोशन रहे कि हर मजहब का एहतराम और बर्दाश्त करने की चाहत ही आने वाले हिंदुस्तान को सुनहरा बना सकती है.
I believe this explicit reference to a golden future is meant to remind us of what Jodhaa and Akbar's union represents. A future where we love one another for who we are, find joy in our diversity, and proactively celebrate these differences together, whether it be our religions, cultures, languages, holidays, etc., etc. Now, I'm not the first person to point out the distinct color schemes in the film, but in case you haven't heard it before, it's interesting to see that the Mughals tend to dress in more muted colors, like cream, beige, and russet, representing their opulence and solemnity. Meanwhile, the Rajputs tend to wear vibrant reds, yellows, and greens, which I think fits with their passionate culture. Jodhaa herself has a fiery spirit, so her fiery colors reflect that. Also, I thought it was interesting how in the scene where Jodhaa and Akbar speak to one another for the first time, their colors overlap. He's wearing green, which is considered a holy color in Islam, but when he enters her red tent, his clothes appear redder. Also, Jodhaa is wearing a green sari with a red border. So in a sense, they're wearing each other's colors, as well as their own. Maybe that's the film's way of foreshadowing that they will discover that they have more in common than either of them realizes. Just like people of different faiths have more in common than they realize. Devotion is devotion, after all. The next theme I want to point out is the film's use of veils or curtains to demonstrate Jodhaa and Akbar's courtship and growing closeness. Islamic-inspired love songs make ample use of veils or curtains as a source of frustration for a lover who wants to see his beloved but can't. The veil, or physical partition, represents social propriety and must be respected. Similarly, Rajput and Hindu-dominated cultures also make use of veils to accentuate romantic tension by concealing a woman's face, leaving a man to yearn for a glimpse of her. While literature has pointed out that veils have historically reinforced patriarchal tendencies to control women's bodies and sexuality, other literature has suggested that veils are a source of pride and empowerment for women. Wearing a veil can be associated with heightened status, such as that of marriage, or wealth if her dress is made of refined materials such as silk or gold and silver metallic threads. Further, some women use veils to navigate male-dominated spaces without being seen or objectified. Veils allow them to control who sees their bodies and faces, including their expressions. In short, veils can allow women to reclaim their physical and emotional spaces. The film combines Hindu and Islamic use cases of veils to create romantic tension between Jodhaa and Akbar. There are many moments when Akbar's attempts to see Jodhaa are thwarted or delayed because of veils, either the ones on her head or the ones partitioning spaces between him and her. In the scene where they first meet, Akbar speaks to Jodhaa through a few layers of veils or curtains, and they stand far apart. This of course represents two things: social propriety between two unmarried people, and more importantly, Jodhaa's reservations about Akbar and whether he'll be willing to honor her conditions for marriage. She doesn't know or trust him yet. During their period of silent harmony, Akbar is seen looking at Jodhaa's chamber door, which is really a veil, and his yearning for her is made explicit in the lyrics of Jashne Bahara. When she's angry with him after their fight, Jodhaa creates a partition between them using a curtain, and Akbar's next line is akin to that of an Islamic love song.
अब आपके चेहरे के आईने में हम अपना अक्स भी नहीं देख सकते.
When he comes to her home to take her back, she's hidden under her veil. His ability to identify her within a sea of women and lift her veil reflects his desire to enter her physical and emotional spaces. He wants to know her truly, free from the influence of his family and community. Also, his lifting of her veil is reminiscent of a marriage ritual, which is cute because they're already married. But in that moment, it's like he's trying to start over with her. Later, when she's sword fighting and he challenges her to a duel,
और अगर हम जीते तो आप हमारे साथ वापस चलेंगे.
he comes close to her to pull the covering from her mouth, revealing her face.
माशाल्लाह.
And then he removes her turban, letting her hair down. Traditionally, married women only show their loose hair to their husbands or other women. As we've alluded to before, in older time periods, loose hair was associated with being half-dressed, especially if you were a queen or princess. So by removing her mask and quote-unquote unveiling her hair, he's undressing her piece by piece. In this case, to lessen her anger and woo her into forgiveness. To summarize, in this scene, Akbar visually demonstrates his desire to know Jodhaa by entering her physical and emotional spaces. The film's ability to liken sword fighting to physical intimacy is so well done. Notably, in the scene where Jodhaa and Akbar unite, the few veils in the room are pulled to the side. The room looks completely open and expansive. I think that represents the fact that in that moment, these two are fully aligned and have opened their hearts to one another. This scene stands in sharp contrast to their first meeting, when they were far apart and separated by several veils. During the song, In Lamho Ke Daman Mein, he pulls one last veil from her, which makes her smile. In that moment, there's nothing figuratively separating them in mind or body. They understand each other, and there's no resistance between them now. It's really nice. In Islamic cultures, latticed windows are also used to segment spaces and separate men from women. In addition to veils, the film makes use of latticed windows to communicate things about Jodhaa and Akbar's love. There's a moment when Akbar looks up at Jodhaa through a latticed window, which I think demonstrates the fact that he admires and longs for her, but she feels unreachable, like a soaring bird. Later, Jodhaa looks down at Akbar through a latticed window, which I think represents that she has the high ground in the aftermath of their fight. It's up to her whether he will be granted a pardon for what he's done. So it's cute that they both gaze at each other through windows at some point, and the fact that they don't know that the other person did that. The last thing that I want to highlight about Jodhaa Akbar is what it says about marriage. Jodhaa and Akbar are both strong, capable, and intelligent. While their compatibility might not be obvious to them, it becomes increasingly clear to us. Jodhaa doesn't typically raise her voice, but she exerts her will in matters that concern her, whether it be sneaking out of a royal assembly to comfort her brother, demanding that Akbar meet her two conditions before marriage, telling him she doesn't feel comfortable being intimate when they barely know each other, refusing to return to Agra with him after he misjudged her, taking control of the royal kitchen to serve vegetarian food during Pir, and venturing into battle to warn Sujamal of the impending danger to his life. She also excels in quote-unquote masculine skills, namely sword fighting and horse riding, and exhibits a keen understanding of what is required to be a good leader.
किसी भी इंसान का दिल जीतने के लिए उसके मन में झांकना पड़ता है.
Which Akbar immediately puts into practice by going undercover to listen to his subjects.
हम ये इसलिए कर रहे हैं क्योंकि फतह करने और राज करने में बहुत फर्क होता है.
That's cute. We love husbands who listen. The natural give and take between Jodhaa and Akbar is delightful to watch because we're observing a relationship between equals. Akbar respects Jodhaa's opinion and treats her as his partner. Except for that one time, but to be fair, he was being manipulated. But for the most part, Akbar represents a form of masculinity that finds joy in learning and is innately motivated to treat everyone with respect, including women. He benefits profoundly from being married to a strong, independent woman like Jodhaa because she pushes him to be a better version of himself, a kinder person and more empathetic leader. Again, the scene where Jodhaa tells Akbar how he's conquered her but hasn't won her heart dovetails with her knowledge of leadership.
उसकी छोटी-छोटी खुशियाँ, छोटी पीड़ाएं, विश्वास और धड़कनों से जुड़ना पड़ता है.
Which I find so interesting. Jodhaa's lesson on love and empathy has the potential to make Akbar a better husband and national leader. One can only imagine that he will continue to evolve as a person and monarch by learning from Jodhaa throughout their marriage. To that end, Jodhaa Akbar demonstrates that a good marriage is one in which two people treat each other as partners and motivate one another to be better versions of themselves. Furthermore, the film's religious theme also plays into its message about marriage. Jodhaa's desire to retain her religious identity and spiritual practices can be likened to someone wanting to retain their independence and identity post-marriage, whether through work, friendships, or recreational pursuits. Historically, women have been more expected to renounce these things and become cookie-cutter wives. But I think men and women can take something positive from seeing Jodhaa exert her will pre-marriage and demand that she retain aspects of her personal life that are important to her. She doesn't want her spirit or true self to get swallowed up in a marriage. She wants to maintain who she is in that relationship, and I think that's awesome. Now in the world, sometimes relationships can change people for the better, but I think our desire to retain aspects of ourselves that are important to us and uphold our independence is a good thing. This attitude helps us stay in touch with who we are while in a relationship. Moreover, good partners like Jodhaa and Akbar celebrate their differences. They wouldn't want the other person to give up who they are or what brings them peace. They would want to expand their individual awareness and enrich their life experiences by seeing the world through each other's eyes. I think Jodhaa Akbar is a refreshing period piece of an interfaith marriage at the highest level of governance. It presents a vision of India that transcends religious tolerance. Rather, it urges us to practice love. It shows us that embracing our diversity, like within a marriage, can make our national future golden. People of different faiths don't have to feel separate. At the end of the day, we all love God. And God is the source of all diversity, let's not forget that. But in summary, making an effort to love those who appear different from us can make our hearts feel like paradise.
जिस दिल में मोहब्बत होती है उसे जन्नत कहते हैं.
I'll see you next time. Bye.